Hello, are we on? Let's see, hold on. I'm going to try to turn it this way. Sorry, nope, rotate your phone. All right, let me know if this is working, and I am going to invite Sarah, and we'll have her on camera, and then we'll be able to start. Hi, Belinda. Hello. Okay, it says it's adding her, so she should be on shortly. This is so exciting. You're there.
There we go. I hit the button like 6 times and it
Oh,
didn't do anything. So I had to prove to it that I was serious.
yes, it wants to know if you were committed.
That's right. I'm all in.
Well, hi, how are
Hi.
you? Long time no talk.
Yeah. Since earlier today when we couldn't figure this out either.
But we did it, and there's
That's
no
right.
echo. Do you have headphones in?
Yeah, I've got well,
Oh,
iPhone, and
well,
that's
you're
right.
cool.
Fancy.
I'm old school. Hold on. Nope, I'm just
Birthday
gonna leave it there.
present.
I'm just gonna leave it there. Well, thank you so much. You are our inaugural author, our very
Awesome.
first one to the book club.
Yay.
And it was a no-brainer for me who I wanted. I was so excited. You're the first person I
Well.
asked. So, yeah. Well, because, I did confess to you that I fangirl over you, which is funny because I feel like we're friends, but still I'm like,
Right?
oh my gosh,
That's really funny.
I love her. So I know you think that's fun. I love that you think that's funny because you're so sweet and humble. And I've known you, what, for 5 years, 5 or 6 years now.
At least, yeah.
And yeah, you've always just been good and kind, and you're like the queen of everything, and
Well, I've been
you're
trying to
just
get my
sweet.
kids to call me that for years.
Okay, well, let me talk to them
That's
and
right.
tell them
Queen of
that they have
everything.
to.
Right here.
Yes, right there. I'm going to make you a little banner.
Get a
Good.
crown.
Uh, perfect. Oh, thanks, Amy. She's so nice. Can you see the comments coming up on there,
They're
Sarah?
not coming up on my phone, so I have the video open on my computer. So if I keep looking over like this, it's because
Okay.
I'm looking at the comments.
Okay. Okay, that's good because I have a computer that I'm looking at right behind here too. So I've got some questions to ask, and then we'll let them ask questions and we'll go from there because we want to make sure that people get on here too. I'm going to start by reading your awesome bio. And it says Sarah M. Eden is a USA Today bestselling author of witty and charming historical romances, including Forward Review's 2013 Indie Fab Book of the Year gold medal winner for Best Romance, Longing for Home, as well as 2014 Whitney Award winner for Best Novel of the Year, Longing for Home, Hope Springs. Combining her obsession with history and affinity for tender love stories, Sarah loves crafting witty characters and heartfelt romances set against rich historical backdrops. She holds a bachelor's degree in research and happily spends hours perusing the reference shelves of her local library. Sarah lives with her husband, kids, and mischievous dog in the shadow of a snow-capped mountain. She has never attempted to ski. I love that. My husband won't allow me to ski anymore. Bad knees.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say allow. He doesn't allow me to
I
do
know what you're
anything,
saying.
but he highly
He's not in
suggests that I
favor
don't.
of the risk. Yes.
He wants me to live. So, yes.
Yeah,
And you
I
are
always
represented
say
by
if I'm
Pam
going to fall off a
Victorio.
mountain, I'm going to do it for free. So, not paying to ski.
That's awesome. Maybe someone can pay me to fall off a mountain.
That's right. Perhaps
It's
if I had
probably a list of people.
sponsorship, then I would consider it.
That's awesome.
Your book club's going to
Okay.
find out I'm a dork, so hopefully they're okay with that discovery.
Oh, but you're a beautiful dork, and that's what I love about you.
Well,
All the best people are dorks.
that's right. It's a rule.
It is a rule. Okay, so do you want to take a second to talk, before we talk about Seeking Persephone, do you want to talk about your newest release and tell us a little bit about that so we know what book we're just going to buy tonight and tomorrow?
I had to think, what was my newest release?
The Heart of
Okay,
the Vicar.
I know now. I have to think a moment. And it is even right here on my desk. Product
Nice.
placement. It's here because I put on my desk on a little easel whatever my most recent book release was, as a reminder when I'm kind of in the trenches writing something, that there is like an end goal. That at one point I was in this same
Yes.
position with that book, and it eventually figured itself out. So anyway, that's why that's on my desk. Yes, I'm part of a vicar.
Nice.
It is another Regency era um, romance. Regency meaning like the first couple decades of the 19th century in England. This one is part of my larger Jonquil Brothers family of books. I don't really call it a series because you can read them on their own, but they do all intertwine and interact. So it's kind of a series, but kind of not, but kind of. So
Yeah.
anyway, this is it's a family of 7 brothers, and every brother has his own story. And this one is for the 6th brother in the family,
Got
who is
it.
a vicar, in case you couldn't guess by the title.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
So
because I
there you
was
go.
looking at your website and you've got the John Quill Brothers books, and they're all 7
Mm-hmm.
out there. So all the brothers have their books.
Actually, no. We have a guy who is like an honorary member of the family, and so his book is in there, but he's not one of the 7 actual brothers. There's one more brother to go, the baby of the family.
Oh,
So weirdly
okay.
enough, there will be 8 books in my 7 brothers book
That's
series.
good. That's good. That's
I like
good.
to lie
And
to people,
so
is what it comes down to.
that's what we do. We get paid to lie.
That's right.
But if it's a good lie, it's okay.
That's right. People buy it.
It's right. So Seeking Persephone is part of the Lancaster family series. And is
Yeah.
that like a series of relatives too, or how's
Yeah,
that
it's a very
how are they
similar
connected?
idea. Um, it is again another family, but this time it's 3 sisters. No, 4 sisters. This is bad. Like I'm getting my own books wrong. 4 sisters, and there are technically 2 brothers, but only one of them has a book for reasons you discover in Seeking Persephone. So it's all
Yeah.
of Persephone's siblings. So it works the same
Okay.
way the other one does, where it's not necessarily a true series. Each book wraps up its own story, but they're all intertwined and it's the same characters, and you kind of get to see them as the years pass and all the siblings grow up. So,
So does this mean that Harry doesn't get his own book? Because I really want him to have his own book. Can we just do like
oh,
Harry
Harry,
rocks?
Adam's friend. I will
Yes.
just tell you, read Courting Miss Lancaster.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Type,
Just saying.
typing that down. Just saying. Okay. That's
That's the
awesome.
best piece of advice I have for you right now.
And I will always take your advice. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to start with some questions, and I have some questions for you. And we're going to kind of go in between questions for you as an author and
Okay.
questions about the book, because I want people to get to know you a little
It's
bit
where we
because you're
see if
more
I
than one book.
remember what's in the book.
Well, and you know what's funny? So when it comes to, you've written how many novels now? Like,
I'm up to, I think that are published. I'm at like 22 or 23, something like that. And I
so
have
yeah.
another one coming out this year, probably 3 more next year. So there's so much in here. I can't remember all of it.
Do you like have it like all you know how when you watch like spy shows and you go into the crazy person's room and on the wall they have like webs everywhere? Do you, do you have like that of how everyone's connected, or how do you
Should, right?
organize
I
everything?
have over here, you have to go past my little sewing. Let me move my dress form. I have over here, can you see on my shelf?
Uh-huh.
Notebooks and notebooks and notebooks, just filled with information about my various book series and characters and stuff. So I have lots of information. I don't have it hanging from wires from the ceiling to form a collage, but I do have it all written down because otherwise I'd never be able to keep track of it all.
Okay. That's awesome. So you write 19th century America, you write Victorian era literature, Western romance, Regency romance. What or do you have a favorite?
No, that's one I want to say problem, but problem with having come at writing as a historian, like history lover first. I love the history so much that there isn't one era that I'm like, that's my era. That's where I'm going to be working. That's where I'm going to be writing. Because I love all of it. The only thing that keeps me from writing in every era of all time, is the amount of research I have to do anytime I start in a new era. One
Yeah.
of the manuscripts I just finished is actually Georgian, which is 18th century. And that took a lot of
Okay.
research to be able to start that. So that one's been a long time coming because I was switching eras. But I love them all so much. I'd write all across history if I had the time.
Well, because, I really don't think there's a lot of Viking romances out there. Do you think
Should
you can
work on
tackle
that,
that next?
right? Long boats and helmets, like that's all I know about it.
Big clubs and raw
That's
meat?
right.
I don't know.
There had
I
to have been
don't know.
chanting or something. Thor has to show up at some point.
I do love a good Thor. A good
Who
Thory.
doesn't?
Okay, that was funny.
Boom.
Sorry. So you're working on something. So what are you working on like right now? Can you give us just a
Yeah, just
little
last
taste?
week I finished up a manuscript for the next book in my Hope Springs series. That's American West amongst a group of Irish immigrants in the mid 19th century.
Awesome.
So that one I just finished last week. I'll have to go back and do revisions because you always have to do that. But I finished the manuscript, and so yesterday I started the next manuscript in my Savage Wells series of books, which is American West, like straight on Western romance. It's cowboys and shootouts and sheriffs and
Right.
outlaws. And so I just started that yesterday.
So you're looking at these different time periods, and we talked a little bit, I think, online just about no, it was me and who was it? I think Jennifer, Jen Johnson, someone, about the push and pull, especially in the Regency area, because there's so much you can't say.
Right.
All they can say is like the little tip of the iceberg. So in that sense, it makes it easier to have that conflict and that tension because there's so much they want to say, but they just
Right.
can't. But it wasn't so much that in the West. So how, like when you're writing the Western romances, how do you keep that going?
Well, I think a lot of the tension, especially in the books I write, come not situational, but arise from the characters themselves. Like the characters themselves are dealing with things that create these barriers, things that get between them and sort of their happiness and moving forward in their lives. And people are the same across history, across continents, across locations. And so I think anytime you have two people who are dealing with stuff and everyone's always dealing with something, you're going to have conflict. There is obviously some situational stuff that plays into it, whether it's the expectations of society or trying to survive in the middle of nowhere, or class warfare amongst the 19th century immigrants and the settlers, and all of that. It plays into it, but the heart of the conflict is always the characters themselves and things that they personally are dealing with. And so by writing from that standpoint, as opposed to a plot that's pushed by circumstance, I found it
Mm-hmm.
almost doesn't matter when I've set the book, because things get messy when people are involved, and people are involved no matter where or when a book takes place. So that's what I have found has helped me.
Well, and that's what drew me into your characters, is because they're so real, and there were so many times when I just wanted to throttle Adam and say, "Get out of your own way." But one
Yeah,
thing that you did so
exactly.
well, is that I love how he surprised himself throughout the book. Like he'd do something nice, and he'd go, "I just did something nice.
What
What
is
is that?
happening to me?
What is
Who
happening?"
am I and what have I done with myself?
I
Yeah,
know. I love it.
exactly.
So anytime you guys have a question, we can see your comments and questions on there, and you can chime in, and we'll stop our conversation and we will answer your question um, as you guys come in, and we'll go from there. Let's see. So let's just talk about Seeking Persephone. Okay. And you've got this story kind of um, wrapped up in this beautiful Greek mythology. How did you come up with the idea of I want to write another romance and I want to do this part, or did you think about I love Persephone and I want to just what order did you do that in? Did you think?
Yeah, I have always been fascinated with Greek mythology. I remember reading about it as a young kid. I thought it was really kind of fascinating and interesting, and had the idea at some point that it'd be very interesting to retell some of these myths set in a different era, set in a different genre. And so I had the idea to retell the myth of Persephone and Hades as a Regency romance, but didn't for a long time because the actual original myth is pretty messed up. I didn't want to recreate that. But then I came across one particular philosopher's sort of take on it, and that was that Persephone and Hades concocted the plan together of how she would be able to come back because they were actually in love. And then the idea exploded because I realized that was a romance I could write because that was a romance that was healthy, where they were choosing each other. And so it started from there. And as I built her family and gave them all Greek names, I did it because I wanted to create a series where every book in that series is a retelling of a Greek myth. And they all are in that whole series. And it's the myth of the namesake of the main character. And so it kind of launched this whole thing where I got to use my love of Greek mythology and my love of historical romance and just mesh the two and retell them in a totally different setting and context. And it's been a lot of fun.
Oh, it's just fascinating. It's just fascinating. Oh, we've got some other people here.
Yay!
Heather's here. Hello. Sarah's here. How fun. Okay. So now we're going to ask you some fun questions. I'm like, what kind of questions do I want to ask? So I have dorkies. So here's my dorky question. Okay, their first kiss. I went back and read it like 3 times because it was just so sweet. Just the way that it happened. It was unexpected and it just happened. I'm like, oh my gosh, they just kissed and it was so great. My dork is showing through here now. But so how do you decide like when you, and after this question, then we will. Lisa says, I can't keep up with the conversation. Your video keeps stalling. Okay. We don't take it personally. You're so sweet. So how do you know when to put in that first kiss? I mean, do you have it kind of planned? Are you a plotter or is it just you're like, put it here?
I'm absolutely a plotter, like a ridiculously detailed plotter. It's kind of the sickness. But no, I plot extensively. First, I do a whole lot of character work, and then from there, I create. I have a plot structure I fill in to make sure I have the basic bones of the story, and then I do a scene-by-scene plot of the whole book, which is multiple pages long. And then before every scene that I write, I outline that entire scene, and then I write it, and then I outline the next scene, and I write that. So, lots and lots of outlining.
That makes me happy.
When the first kiss or whatnot happens, it's part of the plot structure that I put together. There's a point at which a certain amount of their relationship, it kind of depends on the story, but a certain amount of their relationship has to already be built, and that depends a lot on the characters themselves, what they need in a relationship, what their obstacles are. If their obstacles have to do with, massive trust issues, you're not going to have that physical intimacy of a kiss or, that early on. But if that's not their issue, it might happen sooner. So it kind of depends on the character. And actually in Seeking Persephone, the moment that for me as a plotter, as, someone determining plot structure, the moment for me that serves as their first kiss isn't actually a kiss at all. It's the moment on the stairs when Adam has just gotten back from saving Harry and he touches her, because it's the first time he's ever touched her. And she's been longing for that for so long. And he's been holding that back specifically because of the things they're both dealing with. So for me, that moment serves as a first kiss in terms of the building of their relationship and their relationship arc. But to me, that's what made sense for them as a couple, to be their first moment of more personal physical contact. It was any physical contact of any kind. So yeah, it kind of depends on the characters, but it is something that's planned out, and it's planned to happen at a point where it makes sense for them as a couple, where it makes sense in their relationship, and also where it propels the relationship forward to where it ought to be going. It's all very scientific, which is weird for a romance, but I'm a strange person.
There is a science to writing romance, right? There's a science to
there very much is,
just the push and pull, and I just loved it all. I love their conversation about when he admits to her that he knew that she had been sneaking into bed.
Into his room.
And the poor thing was just mortified, and like in his own little way, he's like, "No, it's cool.
It's all right. Like, whatever."
That's cool. I
It's like,
like
you
your
need to be in
noises.
here because your noises have now ruined everything.
Right,
So
you
you might
ruined
as
it with
well
your
keep
puppy
ruining
noises.
things. How
Oh,
romantic.
so, I'm looking at, this novel, it speaks so much too, of course, about personal growth, and I think about, for
Right,
me, um, you know, I love how it's about love and vulnerability and hope.
right.
Adam was he had no hope.
Mm-mm, at
And,
all.
and and she had no hope for very different things, and at the end they came together
Hmm.
because they finally had this hope.
Right.
And to me, that's what I came from it. One of the things I pulled from it. But is that the message that you were hoping that readers would walk away from feeling? Because you always want your readers to walk away thinking something or feeling something. Did you have an idea of what you wanted that to be?
I feel like that probably is something that I would want readers to walk away from any of my books with, is a feeling of hope. I think hope is a more powerful force than we give credit to. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that's been very powerful in my life. So if I can write books that give people hope, then I'll feel like I have accomplished something worth the effort. Now, of course, not everyone takes the same thing from every book, and there'll be different themes that'll be pulled from it. But I think hope is a thread that runs through everything that I write. I don't think I could write a book that didn't have that as part of the tapestry of what it was.
Yeah. Well, and it's I love how you do it, and I love how, I look at the way that Adam, and I had to research. There's a Ralph Waldo Emerson quote, and there's oh, Amy says, I had so much compassion for Adam and how far he came with hope.
Yeah, he changed
And
a
it's
lot, and in good ways.
well, and what's fascinating is at the very end, you write this sentence. So we know, like, his face is a huge issue for him, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
And at the very end, you said vulnerability touched every side of his face. And I thought, not only is that a beautiful sentence, but that is brilliant writing, because you're talking about, physically his face was the issue, but
Right.
you're bringing that internal into the external, and you're mixing it
Exactly.
together. And I just got the goosebumps again. Thank you very much, Sarah.
Yeah, those
I
scars were very much an
love it.
outward manifestation of that vulnerability inside.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a physical show of it. And so, yeah,
And to me, I just felt like the vulnerability just overtook the scars, and they didn't matter anymore, because
yeah,
what she saw was the vulnerability, and that's what she wanted from him. She
right.
wanted him. And bless his mother. She is your match. You go get her. Oh, I love it. And in this book, oh, so let me go back to Ralph, and then we'll talk about families. So this quote, there's two different versions of this quote that I found. One of them, it says, your actions speak so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying. And I think I love how this pertains to Adam, well, to both of them. But again,
Right,
Adam, because for me, I mean, Persephone went through her growth process, and she became stronger. But
right.
to me, his was a little more apparent because I think he
He
had
had
farther
so
to
far to
go.
go. Exactly.
Yeah. And so it was far more apparent. But, his actions spoke louder than even just what he was saying. So
Right.
the fact that he writes a letter to inquire about her brother, he gives her the coat when she's cold, just
Exactly.
all of, he carries her, all of those little things. Um, and I think that's so funny that he just kept surprising himself. Like, wow, what made me want to buy her that writing outfit? It's
What
like,
is wrong with
because you're a
me?
good guy. Duh, we
Exactly.
all know it.
But again, it's that vulnerability. He hides even from himself. He
Right.
hides what he feels is vulnerable, what he feels could hurt him if other people see it, but it would hurt him even if he saw it because he'd have to acknowledge that it was there. So yeah, he had a lot to go through. And luckily Persephone was patient. So
Oh, she was so good. She was
yeah.
so good. And it makes me think of just, I think with any really good novel, it makes you look inward to yourself. And and so I just posted something on Facebook the other night. I was joking with my husband, and we all have issues. And I think the worst issues we have are the ones that we don't know we have, because we
Yep.
can't attend to them,
You
right?
can't fix what you don't see. Yeah.
No. So I looked at my husband and I said, okay, honey, I have issues. Tell me what they are so I can fix them. He goes, it's a trap.
Okay, I was
No.
gonna say he. Please tell me he did not answer that question.
No. And then he said, you don't have any issues or weaknesses, honey. Do you want some ice cream? but
Exactly.
but I love the idea that even though he had his issues, um, yes, we do all, it is easy to relate to, Amy. We do all have issues. I love the fact that his actions showed his
Right.
heart, even though he
Yeah.
was just so, and I
Before he
think
could
that,
acknowledge it to himself or to her, we saw it
yeah,
because it was already pouring from him.
right.
He just hadn't pieced, the puzzle together. And yeah,
And that's what makes him so likable. You know,
yeah,
even when he's just a crusty mustard,
which
you
he
just
is
love
a
him.
lot. Yeah, no, he's pretty
He
great.
is. And it really explains too how Harry can still be his friend
Right.
because Harry sees it.
Yeah, exactly. And
I
that's why
love
he
it.
stayed with him because he sees it.
So you're
Yeah.
such a good writer. I feel like you should write my next book for me.
I feel like I should write books. Like maybe I have a future.
I think you should. I think you should.
My
Um,
daughter, when she
Go
was
ahead.
really little, got to like beta read a manuscript for J. Scott Savage, if anyone's familiar with his work. And I didn't tell her who had written it, just let her read it. And afterwards, I was like, so what'd you think? She said, this guy's pretty good. He should think about being a writer. So I passed that on to him. And if you don't know J. Scott Savage, he's very well published and was at that point. So it was just hilarious that she was like, you should
Yeah.
think about being a writer.
She's got an eye for talent.
Yes, yes,
She
she
might
does.
want to be an agent.
She had to think about that.
Just just saying. So Amy loves the Harry Adam dynamic. Yes.
They're pretty great,
Yes.
huh?
Me too. So I want to speak to and ask you about what this novel also says about family relationships and the effect of, I think, the way that sometimes we're dishonest with ourselves, but the way that we sometimes make assumptions, like the assumptions that he made about his mom,
Right.
and just how, yeah, how family and how we can really affect each other in our lives. Was that part of what you were
Right.
trying to get through here as well?
Oh, absolutely. And also to show how some of our issues are ones we have inherited. I mean, they're multi-generational. His mother's issue is also an attempt at hiding vulnerabilities. It's not acknowledging them in herself and therefore can't address them. But by not doing that, she's passed on this fear of vulnerability to her son. She has her worries about that have created this distance between the only family she even has left, and it affects generation after generation. And had Adam not learned to address that in himself, it would have kept going. But again, it's so easy to make assumptions. Like he can't see that issue in himself, that weakness, and so he doesn't see it in his mother either. And so he assumes that she has abandoned him because she hates him, that she's abandoned him and did all those years ago because he wasn't worthy of a mother's love. I mean, all these things that he filled in the blanks with because he didn't see in her the same issue he himself was having. But once he was willing to acknowledge it, it opened the door for him to see it in his mother and heal some of the relationships, that were there because they're finally bringing out into the open what they'd been dealing with all these years and just
Yeah.
had never talked about because they were hiding from the same things.
And I love that he discovered at the end that he wasn't abandoned, right? And
Right.
that's her big thing is, why didn't you come back? Well, I wanted to, but I was waiting for him to come get me. And that is what in part propels him to go get
Right.
Persephone, which I think is just so you just brought it together all so well, so perfectly. And it was just such a satisfying ending, which brings me to my next question. Did you consider a different ending, or was this always like you knew, especially because you're basing it off on the
Right.
The Greek myth? Was there a different ending?
No, it was always that one because I knew that's what would have to happen, that he would have to be willing to leave the safety of his, isolation.
Yeah.
That had to happen. If he wasn't willing to do that, then he was just repeating the mistakes of his parents, and it would have just
Mm-hmm.
continued on for generations. So I knew for him to have completed his character arc, for their relationship to be set on the path it needed to be, he had to be willing to go after her. It's the only way it could have happened, and it satisfy what needed to happen for him as a character. So that was always the ending. The trick was convincing him to go.
Well, and it's interesting because it's the opposite of her. She left everything at the beginning to come to him, and then he left everything to go to her, and then they go home together, which is beautiful.
And at that point, they've chosen each other. Yeah.
Such a good book. Okay, so Angie came in just to say quick hi, so we're going to say hi to her, and then we'll go to Whitney's comment. So Angie said, just a quick hello, Sarah, you're awesome, and your book's the best. I hate it when books come to an end. Oh, and I'm awesome too. Thanks for the... So Angie is the like Uber fan that I had you sign the book for. She's like your biggest fan ever.
Okay, awesome.
So that's who Angie is. So hi, Angie. And she actually... is illustrating, let me grab my thing. She is illustrating my children's book that's coming out in the fall.
Wow, that's awesome.
So we're just going to do a little plug. Look at this is little Olive. Her name is Olive You.
I love it.
She's so cute.
I love it so much.
It's going to be just a fantastic book, but she's very, very, very talented. And
that's
she had,
fabulous.
Yeah, but she is so excited to be here. So hello, Angie. And then Whitney said that she felt like Persephone blamed herself for Adam's
I think it's actually Adam's mother he's referring
to. Oh, Adam's mother blamed herself for Adam's lack of
ear. You know, he was born with just a stub of flesh instead of his ear. Yeah, she absolutely felt guilty about what was done to him in search of that. You know, what the surgeons had done and what it had left him with and all the suffering he'd gone through. Absolutely. There's that, you know, holding back these vulnerabilities, but also just drowning in feelings of guilt, which is also something we struggle with Adam. As he begins to realize how much he married up and what a great person she is, he feels guilty that she's tied to him because he doesn't feel worthy of that because of the issues he had with his mother. So yeah, it's just, again, it's a mess when people are involved. People are involved. So yeah.
Well, things won't go according to plan because he was supposed to marry someone that didn't want to be married to him so he wouldn't have to love her back.
Exactly.
And she went and ruined everything.
That's right. She showed up. She wasn't old. She wasn't ugly. And she was a nice person. How dare she?
Stayed. Oh, I think it's lovely. Amy said, when you understand his mother, you have compassion for her. And I think that's extremely insightful. And I think I was at a writer's conference once, and I think you were there too. It was when Anne Perry was the keynote.
Yeah.
And in her keynote, she said, we are here for one purpose, and that's to learn empathy. And that's what fiction does. And I think anytime you know, they say if you don't like someone, if you have a hard time, get to know them.
Yeah.
And
because most people have redeeming qualities. The vast majority.
Some don't. Just kidding. Most do. Most do.
Exactly.
But just really quick about his mom, you know, I think as mothers, it's easy for us to blame ourselves for not being the perfect mom or because we've all said and done things that have hurt our kids, right? And I think it's an important lesson here it's okay. You should acknowledge that. And I think you should apologize to your kids. But if you hold on to that guilt and shame, I think you pass on that legacy to your kids.
Right. Exactly.
And it's so important just to let that and be honest with them like she was.
Yeah. Yeah. And you may help them deal with something they're dealing with because they inherited it from you. So,
right.
Yep.
Right.
I often, when my kids, are dealing with something, I'll just say, I'm really sorry. You get that from me.
Or who was it that said, I was talking to someone and they said, you know what? Don't complain to me about my weaknesses anymore. Here's $20 for therapy. Go.
I often tell my kids, I'm just giving you something to talk to your therapist about.
Right. But, I'm giving you a chance to own your own issues. Okay.
Exactly.
So Tori says, would you ever consider having a sequel? I would love to know if they end up having a son and how his relationship changes with his mom.
Yeah. If you, there are at this point 3 more books in the Lancaster family series, in which we get to continue following both Adam and Persephone, and also Persephone's siblings, as each of them finds love and sorts out some of their own issues and all of that. So After Seeking Persephone is Courting Miss Lancaster, which is about Athena
And has Harry's in
and
it.
Harry's in there. Um, and then after that is Romancing Daphne, which is about Daphne, who in Seeking Persephone is only like 8 years old or something. So I think she's actually like 11, but obviously it takes place a little bit further down the road. And then we have Loving Lieutenant Lancaster, which is about Linus. And then in September, I have a novella coming out in a Christmas collection called my novella is called Christmas at Fallstone Castle. And it takes place, I'm trying to think how many years after Seeking Persephone. It's like 9 or something, like 11, I don't know. And that is a story about Adam's mom. So we get a little bit there too. So you get to learn a little more of how that relationship is moving forward, how her life has been moving on since then. So there are a lot of books that continue this story. So not true sequels in that Adam and Persephone aren't the main characters, but because this is Persephone's family and Adam is married to her, they play a prominent role in all of the stories. So you can find those there. And then I will also have a story for Artemis, the youngest sister. That one just isn't out yet. So
I love that her name is Artemis. That makes me happy. It's just so great. So Amy says, I think this is one of the most powerful lessons for mortality is to forgive your parents, shown so beautifully in this book. And I think it's true. I think, the whole, how many people do you know I have mom issues, I have dad issues, and they use their parents, and some are legitimate. Some parents,
100%.
The best parents, but it's, what are you going to do with it? And are you going to allow those issues to keep you down and to hinder yourself,
to find the healing you need personally, regardless of because that's it. To be able to forgive, at least for your own sake, is a powerful thing to do, and it's freeing, which I think is important.
Well, and to forgive yourself. I mean, Adam had to do that in the end because he knows that he was, crusty mustard, I think is the term that I used.
Yes.
And he didn't, I think sometimes we throw ourselves on the sword of self-sacrifice. I don't deserve this. And I'm so glad that he didn't do that. I'm so glad that he went, I love her and she loves me and I'm going to go get her because she is my match. He didn't go, no, I messed up because I was rude. And I think oftentimes we can deprive ourselves of things because we decide we don't deserve it, as if that's like a noble sacrifice. But it's not. It's just hurting ourselves.
So you never get past it. Exactly. It's perpetual punishment. And that doesn't accomplish anything.
Right. Totally. So Beth says that Daphne is her favorite of the sisters.
Yay. Yeah, I don't know if Beth has read Daphne's book, but Daphne's book was a lot of fun to write because Daphne is so quiet. So it was definitely a challenge to write a book with a heroine who's very, very quiet. Because you want to make sure they're present in the scenes. You want to make sure that the reader feels like something is happening when you have this character whose tendency is totally to pull into herself. So it was a fun challenge, but I'm really pleased with how it turned out.
Oh, you're so good. Is there anything that surprised you about this book when you were writing it and when you were planning it?
Again, I wrote it so long ago that I'm trying to remember. I wrote it in 2008, so it's been 11 years. I'm trying to remember.
Gosh. Just say yes, but I can't tell you.
Oh, yes, because it's a big secret. There's almost always something that surprises me in a book. Even though I do a ton of outlining, a ton of character work, a ton of plotting and planning, I'm still surprised. And sometimes it's a character making a decision I wasn't expecting. Sometimes it's how nicely things fall together when I assumed I would have to really work to make it that way. Like it's just different with every book, but something always surprises me in the writing of a book, which I think is good. It'd be easy to get bored if everything always happened exactly the way you expected it to.
Right. Beth said that she has read all in the series so far, and the characters are so very real.
Well, then I can't wait for you to read Christmas at Fallstone Castle. It takes place right after Loving Lieutenant Lancaster, so we get to keep going with this cute little family and watch Adam try to put up with his hordes of relatives, as he puts it. He's adorable.
Gosh.
He's adorable. I love him.
He's so sweet. Amy says, perhaps a few words about those pack of wolf dogs. Okay.
Yeah.
Tori wants to know how you find time to write as a mom.
Well, it's a lot easier during the school year. I write while my kids are at school. Part of it is I know I have a very finite amount of time in which to write. It's one of the reasons I'm such an outliner, because I need to know the moment I hit my chair what I'm writing. I don't have time to sit and try and ponder it and think about it. So it's one of the reasons I outline before I write. I plan out my writing time so that I can get the most out of it possible. My internet gets turned off, all of the distractions. I've even been known to type on a typewriter and then scan that in afterward, because I know you can't get on the internet with a typewriter. But yeah, it just
Yeah.
comes down to using what little time I have. In the summer, it's a little bit harder, but my kids are older now. So my daughter has some homework, summer homework for a class next year. And she has a little job that she works a few hours a week. So while she's doing that, I do my writing. And again, it's planned out in advance. So there's no moment where I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my hour or two that I have to write. I know exactly what it is and just jump into it.
That is so
And then
awesome.
part of it too, I think, is being forgiving of yourself. There are days when it's just not going to work because you're a mom
Yeah.
and your kids need you, and you have to be willing to be flexible and
And
recognize
you're
that
really good at
given
putting
a
them
few more
first.
years, they won't be at home. So, I mean, you have to, prioritize.
Yeah.
So,
Are you able to outline when they're around, like everyone's watching a TV? Can you
yeah,
outline when you're doing that?
yeah, I'll do that if we're watching a TV show or,
But you
yeah,
can't write.
sometimes when everyone's folding laundry. It's amazing how often I get out of folding laundry by saying, I need to outline for my
I
writing
need to
time tomorrow.
outline. Do you listen to music
So,
when you write?
I listen to music as long as it doesn't have words. If it has words, it's too distracting. But I do have songs I associate with different characters and different books, and I will often listen to that as I'm gathering all of my stuff to do my writing session, because
Mm-hmm.
it gets me in the mindset to start writing. Again, I want to make sure the moment I sit down, I'm ready to go and hit the ground running. Otherwise, I run out of time. So I do things like that to prep. But the music I listen to while I'm writing just has to not have words, because otherwise those words end up showing up on the page.
I sometimes listen to music and it affects what I'm writing. So if I'm listening to
Yeah,
something a little more peppy, then I'm like, oh,
exactly.
I'm not
Yeah, and
writing it the
I've
right
been known
way.
to either purposely choose something that has the feel I'm looking for, or turn music off because it's messing with the tone of what I'm trying to write.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally feel that. Okay, here's a silly question. What is your writing spirit animal?
What's that?
Your writing spirit animal.
Probably some kind of exhausted, flightless bird. I don't know.
Like an emu that's napping.
Exactly. That is exactly it. That is
Wait,
exactly
penguins.
it. Like I'm there, I showed up, but I'm too tired and ain't nobody got time
Nobody got
to do
time.
anything. I'm just gonna sit here.
I think I'd be like a laughing hyena because I would just be laughing all the time and scavenging for food.
Right. There you go.
Like, this is funny. Are you done with that? Can
Yeah,
I?
exactly.
um, so when you're writing your books, do you hide secrets in them?
Absolutely. Um, for all of my series, I have the entire series planned out in pretty significant detail. And so I will drop hints in earlier books of things that are coming in books down the road. And it's so much fun when I finally write those books and readers will be like, oh my gosh, you mentioned this 4 books ago. And I'm like, I
Did you
know.
even know?
Yeah, like, did you know you did that? Yes, I knew I did that. But that's so fun for me because I know what's coming, and to set it up, I don't know, that's fun and exciting. Or I'll have characters from other books whose names just kind of get dropped here and there.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
people pick up on that, it's so much fun because I put it in there just to see if
Oh, how
anyone
fun. Do
notices.
you that is so fun. There's this little SNL meme of a girl that's a woman that like can't keep secrets and she's doing the surprise party and she pulls her sweat up and she's like, they don't even know. You'll have to look it up. It's really
That's
funny. I'll post
totally
it
me.
on here. It is
An
the best
exhausted
gift. And I
napping
can
emu who can't keep secrets. Is that what I am now?
I can totally see you doing it. It's yeah, always about being surprised. Anyway, um so you talked about how you plot, and then after you get all your plotting and stuff, then you can write a novel in. You write, didn't you write like this last one in like a month?
That almost never happens. Before that, my
Well, I was
record
going to
was
say, I don't want to
6 weeks.
brag, but I've been working on mine for like 3 years. So
Yeah, no, that
I don't
one
want to
went
brag.
really fast, and I'm not sure why. Sometimes they just do. I had another one that I wrote in 6 weeks. That was my record before, but usually it's more like 3 months. That's about how long it takes, depending on the book. My first Longing for Home book, I was actively writing for a little over a year, but actively researching for 3 years before that. So it just kind of all varies. It depends on the book. It depends on what's going on in my life. It depends on how much research I have to do in order to write it. It varies.
Right. Wow. Okay. So let's see. If you were to make a movie, who do you think you would like to star in the movie from this book? I mean, do you have like,
Okay, I have to tell you, my grandfather, he passed away a couple of years ago. He was in his 80s, but just this big teddy bear of a man, right? Sweetest man you'll ever meet. Told me on multiple occasions that if Seeking Persephone was ever made into a movie, he wanted to play Adam, which is absolutely adorable, but no one would ever believe this man is Adam. He was the sweetest man, like in the whole world, but he adored Adam. But I heard that from him so often. Now, when I get asked, how would you cast this movie? He's the only person I can think of. Even though,
oh,
like, one, he's passed away, and two, he could not ever play that part. But that's who I think of because that was his dream. He wanted to play Adam. He just thought he was amazing. He had a T-shirt that said, "I'm the Duke of Kildare. I am the law," and he wore it all the time. And when he passed away, my grandma gave me that T-shirt, and I made a pillow out of it that I have, and so it was his. And anyway, that's who I think of. My grandpa. He would have wanted to
oh
play
my
that part.
gosh. I just got the goosebumps again. That is what a beautiful, beautiful, and how wonderful that he is such just a sweet fan, and that
Yeah,
you
it was
have that
adorable. He would
pillow.
go into bookstores and grab one of my books and then go up to the bookstore employees and say, "This is my granddaughter." And they were like, "We know you told us
Gosh.
that last time you were here." But he was just so sweet and so proud, and it was great. He's a great man.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that. I think that's just a beautiful, beautiful. Oh, yeah, they love it too. They love it too. Um, let's see. I wanted I wanted you to take just a minute because I think getting to know you and what's important to you is really awesome. Can you share a little bit about just your Irish heritage and your love for Ireland and what that means to you?
Anyone who has read my Longing for Home books can probably guess that I have a deep and abiding love for Ireland. My ancestry is, you did ancestry DNA, and mine is 99% British Isles. It's ridiculous. And like, there's no variety in this person right here at all. But a big chunk of that comes out of Ireland, tons and tons and tons. And my birthday is St. Patrick's Day. So, like, I always kind of felt this connection there from multiple directions and kind of this obsession with Ireland. And I had an
Yeah.
idea to write a book about an Irish immigrant because my family were Irish immigrants. And that's, how we came here. And so I wanted to write about that, which plunged me into like a deep research of the history of Ireland. And I already knew a lot about the culture, but to learn about the history kind of added to that and to learn a little more about what my ancestors would have experienced and the lives they would have led. And I was able in 2012 to travel to Ireland to do some research, which was just a dream, like a lifelong dream of mine to be able to go there. And it's so difficult to explain, but the moment we were there, we had driven out of Dublin and I was just surrounded by the green, rolling Irish countryside. And I just started to cry. And my husband is like driving the car and looking over at me, well, looking over that way because we were in Ireland, wrong side of the road. And he was like, "Are you okay? Is everything all right? Jet lag?" Like he's trying to figure out what's going on. I said, "I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like I'm home. I feel like I've missed this place for centuries and I'm home." Like it's so hard to explain it, but there's a feeling of home there. And I know it's that part of my Irish ancestors that lives on in me, recognizing that they've gone home. Because none of my ancestors left Ireland willingly. None of them because it was their idea. It was always famines, warfare, or poverty that drove them out. And so it's this feeling of being able to go back. And I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I've gone back multiple times since then. absolutely love being there. I love being part of it. The culture and the music and the language of Ireland just permeate our house and our family. You can ask my kids, they could pop out Irish language music, on cue. They know it. It's just part of who we are. It always has been. So to be able to write characters who are Irish or who have Irish heritage, it's just a dream come true, because it's a part of me that I get to share, something that means that much to me. It's that deeply important, and it's been so neat to write about them, and in a very real way, kind of honor my own Irish ancestors. Most of those who came out of Ireland, again, left because of poverty or because of famines, and most of them were illiterate, and so they lived and died in complete anonymity. No one ever knew who they were, and so it's like giving them life again, acknowledging that they were real and that they
Yeah,
lived
seeing them.
by paralleling their experiences in the stories that I get to write, and that's been really neat.
Oh, that's so neat. Marcia says that she's got some Irish there too. And Belinda says, my mom and I had that feeling when we visited our ancestors' castle in Donegal.
Yeah, I have ancestors from County Donegal, but they didn't live in a castle. They lived in a tiny town called Cornagilla, which a lot of people in Ireland haven't even heard of. They were tenant farmers, like so many poor Irish people. But in
Yeah.
fact, when we celebrate St. Patrick's Day, and we've done this since my children were tiny, we always eat the food our ancestors would have eaten. So it's very plain, it's very ordinary, but I feel like it's really helped us connect to them even better, because we experience what they experience, and you feel what they feel. And yeah, it's been neat to tell them about their history and their ancestry and
Yeah.
their cultural heritage. It's been really neat.
Well, and the nice thing about, what we believe, in our religion is that really that veil between this life and that life is so thin. And I like to believe that when people have passed on, when we think about them, when we acknowledge them, that they know that there's a connection, that a piece of them is still
Right.
alive, and we know that they're busy and they're happy and they're doing things. Yes, but I had a really interesting experience when I was doing some family history about just one of my ancestors, and I saw pictures of her parents, and I just kept feeling like she looked different. She didn't look like her mother, who just had these big round features, and so finally I met someone online who had a picture of her and sent it to me, and she looked exactly what I thought. And kind of like I started crying, just because I felt like, I said hello to the picture and I felt like she was there, and I met her. And
Right.
so I totally believe in having that connection. Family is so important.
Right.
It's God's unit of love, and it's not just around us. It's not just peripheral. It's
Right.
it's forward and back. And I think
It's
it's
a spirit
awesome. And I
connection.
love, so I'm just going to share really quick my favorite quote from your book, and then I'll let you say a couple things, and then we'll close it, because we've already had you for 55 minutes. It's been
I
wonderful.
get chatty. I feel like I have to warn people of
No,
that.
I love it. I mean, we can keep going all night. My kids are doing the dishes downstairs. This
Six
is great.
hours.
6 hours later.
My husband's at Tabernacle Choir practice tonight, so it's pretty quiet around here anyway. So
Oh, so yeah, I bet it's fun to just watch him. He's so busy, even though I love your pictures that you post. So you guys need to like follow her on Instagram and on Facebook, because you post the cutest, like your kids, like dad and us at conference, and like watching him sing. And it's just so
yeah.
cute. But what a gift. What a gift to be able to do
Yeah.
that. And
It's
you
been
guys love
great.
each other, which my, one of my favorite moments in the book is when you talk about how, when Persephone realizes she loves him. And so you said she was irrevocably and inexplicably in love with her husband. It was perhaps not the all-consuming passion of which most schoolgirls dream, nor the earth-shattering emotion one often equates with love. It was a sensation of safety, contentment, and the feeling that she was, in an unexpected way, cherished. And I love that, because so many times in romance novels, it's about, um, the big bang. It's about the big
Right.
feeling and love at first sight, and I think a lot of people don't understand what love is, and just the way that you described it, because it is a peaceful feeling. It's a
Right.
settled feeling, and it's very real. And so the reader walks away going, okay, you look at, and it was with her husband, because I think a lot of times when we're in marriages, sometimes marriage is hard, right? And
Right.
sometimes you're not Twitter pated with your husband when he's leaving socks, and sometimes he's not Twitter pated with you when you leave makeup everywhere and he's leaving socks
Hey, I
everywhere. You're
can
both tired and
guarantee there are
angry, and
times my husband isn't Twitter pated with
right,
me.
right. Sometimes my husband's like, he's like, oh, hey, okay, so hi, I'm gonna go over
Yeah,
here. I'm like, you're fine. I'm fine. We're
exactly.
all fine. Um, but I think it's such a beautiful reminder of what love is, and that it's not this hot, passionate, new feelings, but it's
Right.
cherishing each other, which is
That's
just the
the love that endures.
sweetest
Yeah. Yep.
word. Oh, and Belinda and Amy say it's like coming home, and it is.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
it's finding someone that you didn't know you were like Ireland was for you. Finding a
Yep.
place that you didn't realize you were homesick for until you were
Yeah.
there.
You didn't realize that there was, yeah, that longing there until you had it and recognized the emptiness you hadn't really been acknowledging. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much. Did you have
Yeah.
any
Thanks for
closing
having me.
words you wanted to say?
Nope. That was being unhelpful. I'm like, I'm just sitting here chatting, answering questions. I have nothing to offer.
You're amazing. Well, so I know that it's summertime and this is our first one. So we had some awesome people come, and I think other people are going to watch this afterwards. So for those
Awesome.
of you that watch this afterwards, if you have questions, put them on there and I'll let Sarah know and she can answer them, and we'll get those answered too. Call me. Like, what is that?
I thought it like paused. I was like,
Yeah, because someone
like
just
playing
called
like
me,
the
like, who's
statue
calling?
game.
But it was like Hawaiian, like Hawaii. Oh, wait, I'm on a call. Hold on.
Can't
Um,
answer this now.
but I'll tell everyone watching this, there's two awesome things that you can do for Sarah because she is so amazing. One is to go to her website, sarahmeden.com, and look at all her other books, buy all of her books, read her books, but sign up for her newsletter so you can stay abreast of all the stuff she's doing. And it's not, I mean, it's not just books. You talk about personal things and other stuff too, and it's great. But here's a super big thing that I think a lot of readers don't realize. Um, Good reviews are really, really, they're like gold for us
They're
authors.
important. Yeah.
Yes. So if
Yeah.
you love, so there's three things. The first thing is go to the website. But there's five things. Buy the books. Okay. Newsletter. That's three. Four, leave a review. Go on Goodreads. Go on Amazon, especially. And if you love the book, write about it and just tell them how you loved it. And the last thing is tell someone. Tell
Yeah.
someone else. The
Word of mouth
best,
is, yeah, the
yeah,
best advertising.
the best advertising is if you
Yeah.
love this group, if you love Sarah, which of course we all do, and you love her books, and we know that there's other characters out there that we're going to go get to know and fall in love with, tell people. And that's the way that we can say thank you to Sarah for being here with us this month. And she's had she had girls camp, she had um, uh, things going on.
It's been crazy.
Yeah, and then we had to change it because I had stuff come up, and so yeah, it's been crazy. But the best way that we can thank her is sign up for the newsletter and just leave reviews and tell people about it, and
Yeah.
all and write Sarah an email and tell her how wonderful she is.
That's right. A nice email. I get plenty that aren't. So send
And
me
can
nice
you guys
ones.
believe that? Like some mean people will email her and tell her, I don't even know what they say. I don't even want to know what they
Oh,
say because it makes me mad at
terrible
them.
things. Yeah.
That's awful. Let's all get together. All like, how many people are in this group now? Like 89? 87. Let's get together and go TP their houses, whoever they are.
Just pick a house at random. Maybe it was
Yes.
you.
We're gonna write on the toilet paper, Sarah Eden is the best, you suck, and we're gonna just TP their house.
Gonna
They'll
knock
never know
on
you
my
were
door.
involved.
Your name's all over my toilet paper.
I know nothing. I know nothing. Oh yeah.
Oh my
See, they
gosh.
all love you. Sarah is the best. I know she is. Well, Belinda's in. We're gonna go. We're gonna do it.
Let's do this.
We're gonna do it. Anyway, well, I think you're wonderful. Thank you. Thank
Well,
you. It's
thank
been a
you.
fantastic month. I'm
Yeah,
going to
it's been
keep you
fun.
on the group for another couple days
Okay.
in case people ask any questions. And
Awesome.
then I know mean people are awful, right, Amy? And you're wonderful. Anyway, thank you
Thanks.
so much for being
Awesome.
here.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. We love you.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.